Welcome to FUNC YOU UP, the podcast that gives you the best of functional medicine, nutrition, and wellness in 8 minutes or less.
Hey everyone, welcome to FUNC YOU UP. This is Michelle Miller, clinical nutritionist.
And Samantha Wineke, functional medicine health coach.
Today we are talking about one of my favorite topics. We are talking about the 5 most common inflammatory foods that we're finding in just about anybody's diet these days. So we're going to break each of these down, but I first want to just explain we're not talking about food allergies. We're not talking about any type of allergic response. We're simply talking about foods that, as we've studied, we've known that they have inflammatory components or impact on the body. So we'll be breaking these down a little bit. The main ones that we're going to be discussing are gluten, dairy, soy, sugar, and corn. Now, after listening to this episode, you may find you want to experiment a little bit with removing, 1 or even 5 of these out of your diet for, few weeks at a time. We often say give it 10 days to be able to tell if you feel a difference. But some of the inflammatory effects we could see would be changes in muscle, aches or pains, muscle recovery. I notice a big difference myself avoiding or limiting these foods with my mental cognition. I think we also definitely see a difference in digestion and just our ability to digest food, optimizing digestion as best as possible. And probably energy levels, I would say, is a big one too.
Definitely. And we see it manifest sometimes. I've seen clients who will have maybe sore knuckles after they introduce one of these after having eliminated it for a couple of days. With skin issues come up, it can manifest in so many different ways.
That would definitely convince me. If I removed a food for 10 days and then brought it back in and had skin issues or swollen knuckles, I definitely think I would be weary of some of these inflammatory foods. So let's jump into the first one, which is gluten. What is gluten?
Right. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about gluten or gluten-free diets. So it's a protein that we find in a lot of grains. So wheat, barley, rye, oats, sometimes spelt. And so it's important to just be cognizant of gluten-containing foods so that you can see if it's contributing to things. A lot of people experience stomach issues, right? So bloating, gas, diarrhea, abdominal pain. I personally experience a lot of brain fog. If I have gluten, I notice the next day I'm just not as clear-headed.
We love to talk about this topic because also through the years, the gluten protein and the wheat product itself has been kind of changing and evolving. And we'll talk about this in more detail in future episodes. So we all know that gluten can be a big contributing factor in inflammation in the body. Try removing it to see how your body responds, how you feel without it. And not to say don't go grain-free, maybe just utilize some of the naturally gluten-free grains. Rice, maybe utilize potatoes, maybe utilize like gluten-free oats for a period of time too.
And keyword there is natural. So the last thing we want you guys to do is go replace your gluten foods with gluten-free alternatives that are full of fillers and preservatives and they're unnatural and sit on the shelf. That is not the goal here.
Yeah, no packaged gluten-free processed foods. That will certainly not help with inflammation. The second food is dairy. Samantha, talk to me a little bit about, because I know some people are lactose intolerant, but there could be other elements in dairy other than just lactose.
Right. So lactose, we kind of touched on this in our last episode about digestive enzymes, but you need lactase to digest lactose. So some people don't have that proper enzyme to digest that, but there's also whey and casein inside of dairy. And in addition to that, some people might respond if you're drinking or eating conventional based dairy. So it might include certain hormones or antibiotics. So there are a lot of different things you could be responding to inside of dairy products that could be creating that inflammatory response.
Definitely. And I think, it could be the casein, it could be the whey, it could be the lactose, it could be, the quality of that dairy. That's something that you talk to a lot of your clients about.
Right. And then an interesting statistic, 50% of people who have gluten intolerance are also casein intolerant too.
Oh, that's incredible. I mean, I know casein is such a large molecule, so it can be difficult on the gut too. That makes sense. The third food, soy. This is an interesting one because I think especially in a lot of Japanese cultures, fermented, whole food soy sources have been used for thousands of years and to help with health. But I think now we're seeing a lot of the processed and genetically modified soy, which is definitely the type of soy we're talking about in terms of what we feel is creating more inflammation in the body. So we would say, whether it's for tofu or like a veggie burger, you really have to pay attention to the quality. We don't want it to be processed, but we know that soy can contribute to these isoflavone chemicals that we think mimic estrogen. So that's a big area of research. We're still diving into a bit more. Again, we're going to have a great episode just talking about this. But I think we're also concerned that a lot of the genetically modified soybeans can be creating inflammation on the body, very, very difficult on the gut. And then also soybeans can contain a compound called goitrogens, which can really influence your thyroid function and how well you're able to utilize iodine, which affects your thyroid hormone production. So it goes into a lot of different areas of why this can create inflammation. Again, a good food to maybe play around with a little bit, removing it for a week or two, and then adding it back in to see how you feel.
Definitely. And I think what we're doing here is we want to make sure to empower you all to see how your body's responding to these foods, just to give you the power to understand it so that you can make a choice, right? So now I know to make a choice whether or not I want to eat gluten because I know I might have brain fog the next day. So it's just giving you that power.
How much and how often, definitely.
Exactly.
And I think too, like you're your best doctor in a way. Like you can really get a sense on your own playing around with these foods of how they make you feel. So diving into corn, I mean, I know we talked about with soy and soybean, how there's a big issue with those products being genetically modified. Corn is another big one. I mean, so much corn is being genetically modified. And then also a lot of our livestock and animals are being fed corn, which we talked about this in previous episodes. If you're not getting enough of the high quality grass-fed meats in your diet, you're getting more corn by, having the conventional meats as well.
Yeah, we certainly don't need more corn.
Yes. And then also, I mean, so much corn is being used in high fructose corn syrup. I mean, that's being hidden in different, even like salad dressings I've seen this in, certainly sodas, certainly, different juice products. So corn is kind of hidden in so many places. I have clients that'll say, I never eat corn. I don't remember the last time I had corn on the cob. And truthfully, they're getting it in so many other areas of their diet, they might not even realize it. So corn is often one of the trickier foods to remove. You really have to go through your diet and kind of assess all the different hidden areas that it could pop up in, like the conventional meats, like the high fructose corn syrup.
Right. And a step in that is reducing processed foods too. The less ingredients, the better.
Absolutely.
And then number 5, sugar. So sugar is important because it does have this quality where it lights up a certain part of our brain that shows that it can be addictive.
Absolutely. I mean, there are incredible studies about sugar lighting up parts of the brain that actually create more reward pathways, more dopamine production. It's similar to even cocaine. So we know that the body loves sugar, but we also know how bad sugar is for the body.
And it's not just listed as sugar in the labels. So there are so many crazy names for sugar. Sometimes it can be hard to figure out, right? So you've got high fructose corn syrup, coconut sugar, cane juice. So just make sure you can Google a list of the different types of sugars and see where those are added in, because I would be willing to bet that it's mysteriously hiding in one of those foods you're eating.
And I think with sugar, it's very difficult to completely eliminate this. So we'll often just encourage our clients to stick with the natural version. So maybe it is a coconut-based sugar. Maybe it is sugar from fruits or from starchy vegetables, really kind of aiming for the sugars that are part of other foods and food groups versus, just adding sugar to your coffee or, adding honey to your, matcha latte or something like that, making sure that it's part of the foods and there's other fibers that are being digested to help with that sugar breakdown as well.
Great point. So that is our top 5 inflammatory foods. Feel free to reach out to us on social media. You can find us on Instagram at Physio Logic NYC or email us any questions at funkyouup@physiologicnyc.com.
We'll catch you next time.
See you later.
You've been listening to Funk You Up. Be sure to like, review, and subscribe for more daily tips on living well.